Hello, guys. It is me, Teddy Jenkins. Oh yeah. By the way, this is the game that Panda got me. Cats are liquid is what it's called. Um, I suppose I should say it now. Thank you, Panda, for getting me this game. Even though it cost 89 cents, and as far as a birthday present, I shouldn't complain. Shouldn't say complain. I mean, it's a present. I mean, you know. Um, Oh gosh, I don't really know how to start this video at all. Um I guess I've just been thought this, especially tonight. It's like 1 a.m. here, and I don't know, I couldn't help thinking about it, and I had to, I felt like I had to, say something, even though, I'm just a random person whose opinion doesn't really matter that much. Um which, I mean, is true and all, but still, I don't care. Um, so I'm curious if anyone else has noticed this, that the world at large, anyway, is becoming almost like it seems like the amount of people that there are in the world seem to be becoming uh uh I shouldn't say mentally ill. That sounds bad. But crazy, in a sense, in the sense that, oh gosh, I don't even know. Like self-loathing, if that makes sense, as though it seems like very the majority of people, and I can only speak. I shouldn't say the world. I should really say America, just America, since that's where I live. Although, I mean, there is something that I wanted to say that was happening in else in the world that is relevant to the conversation. Anyway, um, I mean, it's as though I look around and see everyone talking about how bad we are. I'm not sure if that makes any sense. As though, take for example, okay, so like social justice warriors are the best example of this. It's as though the idea is that you should just hate yourself, if at least if you are in a certain group of people. If you're in a as they would define it, as an oppressed minority, then they want you to express yourself, but only to an extent. For instance, they want you to express yourself in a more I'm trying to think of the correct word. Um, I suppose behavioral. They want you to express yourself in your behavior, in who you are, who you say you are, things like that. But as far as, like, for instance, look at it this way, they don't want diversity. Want diversity? I'll use in the sense of intellectually, as though, for instance, they don't want you to have differing ideas. They want you to differ in your behavior as much as you wish, but it's. And I mean, I'm curious if people agree with me on this, because I don't know really how many people would agree with me versus disagree with me. But okay, the example I was going to bring up from another country, though, was what had happened was there was this woman in Germany who I'm not who I hope, for the point anyway, that everybody knows at least a little bit of what's happening in Germany. There's been a vast amount of Syrian refugees that have swarmed to Germany, and they are now a very, very large amount of the population, as far as I'm aware. Um, And so it's had some interesting, I'll say, side effects for this large amount of refugees coming into the country. And so there was this woman in Germany who was raped, and then after being raped, she emailed her rapist somehow. I assume that, I guess that she must have known him somehow. She didn't go to the police, by the way, at first. Emailed him. This is the first thing she did. She emailed him apologizing for the fact that there would now be more racism towards him and other refugees because of what he did. Let that sink in for a second. And then after, thankfully, she talked to someone, and someone convinced her to go to the police. And so, and this is another thing that just, like, astounded me, was that I told somebody this story, and they said that what she did was good. I believe, I can't remember exactly what they said, but they said something along the lines of, well, it was basically that it was for the greater good, what she did, that she was somehow very, very selfless and heroic in this action. But how could anybody think that? How is that possible? Like, you see what I mean, though, by, like, self-loathing? That, like, I'm sorry, I'm saying too much. But I mean, isn't that just so self-loathing, though, to do that? To think that I mean, that takes, I don't even know how anyone could do that. How is anyone supposed to say to let a crime like that go by without wanting no repercussion to the person? And all for some sort of, I don't even know, some kind of social justice reason that gosh. And I mean, and for those of you who don't know, there's projections that currently the population of refugees will begin to outnumber the population of Germans in Germany. That because there are so many refugees that I think it was 2020? No, it can't be that, because that's too soon. Something, I can't remember exactly what time it was, but in the next couple decades at the most, that the Syrian refugees will outnumber the Germans in Germany. And the person who was explaining this to, like, the I don't know what I don't know what particular they have. It wasn't. I don't think it's like a parliament, but whatever Congress type government style of government they have. The person presenting this was saying that this was like a good thing. I mean, does no one think that this is somehow bad? It's ludicrous to think that anyone would ever say, oh yeah, the fact that we will be our own people will be outnumbered in our own country is a good thing. And and they were saying it was something about the fact that it was for diversity purposes. I had a question exactly. What's wrong about not being widely diverse. Now, I'm not saying that what's okay about being, having like a government or a group of any sort, that it's good to have it just be one type of person and nothing but that one type of person and anything like that. But I mean, why is it bad to not have like several different minorities within whatever particular group you're speaking about? That's somehow bad to not have, like okay, take this for example, right? There was the whole thing that some of you probably, or most of you are probably aware of this, if you care about the Oscars at all, which, now that I think about it, most of you probably don't. I'll explain it anyway. At the Oscars, there were many, I think they were mostly Black Lives Matter people, although I'm not certain, who were saying that it's bad that there are not enough black people nominated for, or there were no black people nominated for Oscars this past year. The one where Leonardo DiCaprio won an Oscar. So the thing that I can't understand is, why is that exactly a terrible tragedy? Like, okay, so there weren't any black people at the Oscars. Okay, so basically what that means is there weren't a tremendous amount of black people in great movies or making great movies. Is that horrible? If it is, why exactly? I mean, if you really, really, really think about it, is that important? Now, I'm not saying there should never be any black people nominated at the Oscars, which, of course, there are people who would think that that's what I'm saying, but it's not. But no, the Oscars should be objective, not, oh, okay, we should include black people because people want black people nominated for the Oscars. It's supposed to be about the profession of filmmaking and working in film. That's what gets you nominated, not the color of your skin. I mean, that idea is inherently racist, isn't it? I mean, even when you think about, think about the Martin Luther King, the big speech that he made, and the famous words of him having a dream that one day his kids will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the contents of the character. What is being said is the exact opposite of that. And yet somehow it's perfectly acceptable. And many people would probably say, well, it's because, that, say, like, black people are oppressed. And the thing this is something I can never quite grasp either. I don't think really anyone, there's nothing that people really have to say to this, is what particular freedoms or rights or in general, what's oppressing these certain minorities? I mean, think about it. What laws are there that could be changed? And at this point, somebody who would be a social justice warrior would probably say, well, it's not about the laws. It's about the social. It's in the name. Social justice. It's about society. They're not trying to change the government. the government's perfectly fine as it is, but it's about, racism in the workplace or sexism in the workplace or various isms. Why is everything an ism, by the way? Why can't it just okay, the literally a few probably an hour ago, I was listening to a podcast where some people were talking about whether or not Suicide Squad, the latest DC Comics superhero movie, whether or not it's racist, or no, not whether or not it's racist, whether it's sexist. And and the funny thing though was that their reason for it not being sexist was that the women in the movie have something to do, whereas in Marvel movies they don't, which I would disagree with. But I mean, think about how many times a day, just if you were to count, maybe not a day, maybe a week. Yeah, that's probably a better measurement. How many times a week do you think you are told that something or someone or some group is racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, any type of bigotry at all? Like, if you think about it, how many times this week have you heard that a particular? I mean, you hear it literally every day when people talk about Donald Trump. Which if people want to have legitimate arguments and reasons for why they think that, very well. But you can't just, for instance, go call a person racist or sexist or homophobic and then it just be true. Which, of course, everybody's going to say, well, of course. Yet, no one seems to everybody seems to kind of turn a blind eye when certain social justice groups do that. It's it. And then there was this other video I saw where literally somebody from Black Lives Matter was saying that all white people are racist. And this was like a YouTube video, like a well-made YouTube video. Just all white people, no matter what, are just racist. Now, all the sane people in the room are going to say, well, okay, that's insane. That's crazy. That's a crazy idea. But I would ask you though, then, to look at what amount of people in, for instance, Black Lives Matter think that. Now, it's not going to be all of them. I'm not saying it's all of them, but you got to admit, I was watching a video on the news the other day where I think it was Black Lives Matter people, were burning the American flag. And nobody was really doing anything. It was just normal. Nobody was trying to stop them. Nobody was saying, hey, don't burn the American flag, seeing as how you live in freaking America. Which is another okay, this is something I always, it's just odd. I'm not saying that it's unwarranted in any way, but it's just odd that people would think this, is that if you're around in fact, I think probably most people now, that if you say openly, I think America is the greatest country on the planet, people will think that's weird, or will think you're just outright wrong. And I'll tell you, you're completely wrong. I had actually two people telling me that. the other day. Um, and the reasons that they said were good but had not been thoroughly thought out. Um, and before I get to what they asked, what they said, why they said England one was better. But I heard one feminist was asked whether or not America is the greatest country in the world or not, and she said no, it's not. And then the person interviewing her said, well, okay, what's one that's better? And she said, well, there are many countries in Europe that are much better, than us. And he said, oh, so countries that happen to be much more white than us as well, which is true. Like everybody seems to always bring up like European countries as being close to perfect, and yet like how diverse are European countries? Like really, racially, and like okay, you look at like British programming, British television. I'm not really certain about. Well, yeah, movies too. How diverse are those casts? Like okay, the only only like a couple of shows I can think of where I've seen British television where I've seen like black people are Doctor Who, where one of the companions of the Doctor was black, and then another one was when what's that like detective crime show that Idris Elba's on? Gosh, I can't remember. But yeah, this one detective show that I want to say like it's called like Ludicrous, but I know that's not it. But yeah, I mean, there's not very much diversity when it comes to say, their media. But then America is always criticized for not being diverse enough. And yet, I heard the craziest. This statistic amazed me, that the percentage of black people in America is about 13%. All right. But the percent they represent in movies is about 30%. So if anything, and I'm not saying this is just a statistic. I'm just saying a simple statistic. A statistic is not racist, okay? If anything, black people seem to be represented more than the amount of actual black people in our country. Well, I shouldn't say our country. You may be like a foreigner. Which if you are, I have nothing against you. I'm not what would you even call that? Oh yeah, xenophobic. I forgot there's a word for that too. There's a word for everything. Yeah, I don't get. Oh yeah, but I forget. I was going to say that. I was going to the reasons that this person said that England was better than America. The first reason they said was that British people are more polite than American people, which is arguable. However, I have not spoken or heard many actual British people that are very polite. I actually spoke to one British person who said that no, that's a total myth. Which I think it's a stereotype, problem most likely, and partially due to the fact that maybe it could be more like the fact that in European countries like England, they are more politically correct, so it comes off as more could seem as though it's politeness, when you could also say it's pandering. I don't know. And another reason they said was because gun crime is lower in England, which it is. It is drastically lower in England than it is in America. However, the thing that nobody ever follows up with that is the fact that the violent crime is much higher in England. So violent crime is any crime that involves violence, not just with guns. But so for instance, knife murders are much higher than in America. As same with like things like rape. I believe. I don't think domestic abuse. I'm not sure about that, but I am aware though that the overall violent crime. I'm not totally familiar with everything that is associated as a violent crime. But yeah, the overall violent crime is much higher than it is in America. So yeah, the gun crime's lower, but it's like saying, okay, would you prefer to your chances of being killed? Would you prefer to be killed more likely with a gun or a knife? It's like, okay, whew, and then saying, okay, would you also like the opportunity to defend yourself with a gun? I don't know. I choose the one that doesn't give me a gun and gives the other person a knife. And it's not complicated is the thing I find odd. It's not like it takes some sort of degree or a specialization in politics or political theory or anything like that. I mean, it's really pretty simple when you think about it. And it just astonishes me that there's so many people who think it's insanely complicated. And certain issues, albeit, are complicated. Everything is not simple, but at the same time, everything is not this sort of crazy difficult these crazy difficult questions to answer. And the other thing though that I want to know, I really would love to know this, is what is the ultimate end goal? Like what is the outcome of social justice warriors look like? Like what is the perfect world for a social justice warrior? Say, take for instance a feminist. What does the world look like? What changes are made that make it so that feminism is no longer needed? Because honestly, I'm pretty sure it's going to be some crazy stuff. Like, the fact that I don't know, like women's chances of getting a job are increased compared to men. Or say women have to be paid more to compensate for the wage gap, which does not actually exist. Something I'm sure it would have to be something like that. Because what else is there? Like, really think about it. What more is going to change? I mean, like overall, like in the general sense. This is an interesting level. Ow, I'm horrible. But yeah, I mean, really, what are we supposed to do? Like, I'm curious. Like, if I just decided tomorrow, okay, let's just say I decided tomorrow to just do everything in my power to satisfy social justice warriors. And let's just say I had all the power in the world. I could change anything. I don't really know what I'd do. Because it's their goals seem to just be this weird thing of, okay, on a case-by-case basis, we wish to eliminate all sexism. I'm just speaking solely right now for feminism. That was awful. But yeah, I mean, what I want you to think about this really like hard for a second. What does the world look like if all social justice succeeds? If all their goals are met, everything. How much more what do you think you'll be able to say that could not be counted as hateful at that point? I mean, really, like look at all the changes in society that have, I shouldn't say society, but, well, I mean, at least in American society, it's happened mostly everywhere else, but in most places where, gosh, the restrictions on what you can and can't say have changed drastically. I'm not talking necessarily about saying, stuff like, oh, you can't say the N-word now, man. I went back in my day, you used to be able to say that, and nobody would turn a blind eye. I don't mean something like that, but I mean take for example the word gay. Okay, almost every social justice warrior, I imagine, would freak out if you use that and said, "That's gay, man." And albeit it's a stupid like term, but I mean the what why should it be bad? Let me ask you that way. Why should it be bad? And most people would probably say, something along the lines of, well, it's saying, okay, it's using the word of a certain group of people, and you're using it in the context of describing something bad. Well, so, okay, in that case, anyone and everyone should not be allowed to use the word, correct? At which point most people would probably say, well, yes. And then you get people like Milo Yiannopoulos, if you're not familiar with him. I would recommend go checking out, because he is actually a very, very smart person, in my opinion. Although social justice warriors will say he's a crazy psychopath. He says things are gay all the time, and he is gay. So, are you gonna say that like that person should not be allowed to say it either? I mean, and then it's it's a massive double standard. When it comes to what people can and cannot say, I genuinely think a lot of left-wing stuff, at least social justice stuff, is actually quite very, I'm trying to think of the right word. It's bigotry, a lot of what they say. Like, if you really listen to it, a lot of it is. Such as some, like I said before, saying that all white people are automatically racist. That's racist. Or saying that black people can't be racist, which I've heard other people say as well. Things that the common group of people would usually typically say, well, no, that's absolutely crazy, and I agree with you that that's wrong, and I disagree with that. However, people don't quite understand, though, that this is cool. That it's not like this is some weird pathetic small group of people. I think people think of it in the same kind of context of how many how many people in the Middle East agree with terrorism and things like that. A lot of people go, well, okay, it's just this pathetically small group of people that are all crazy. Okay. But it's not. I mean, you can see it everywhere that it's it's become very, very mainstream to be politically correct. Like, and that's one reason why I think South Park is so good with their political commentary, because it, if you saw the last season, it was all about, political correctness and why showing off that it's not useful. It doesn't really help anything. Um, there's the best scene in that show that I loved so much. It's where, gosh, Timmy, is it Timmy? Timothy? I can't remember the kid with crutches. I can't remember his name. He in this newspaper that he writes, said the word retarded, and I think it was the actual headline of the article. He used the word retarded, and so the PC principal, who is the new principal in the show of the school, was like, okay, you cannot say the R word, and he was like, well, why not? And so this I believe that actually that Timmy, the kid with crutches, I don't know if his name's Timmy. I think it's Timmy. That I think he I'm like 99% sure. I'm not certain if, and no, you know what? I'm pretty sure it is. That he's retarded as well. So the PC principal was like trying to be really subtle about it, but also was having this sort of double standard where he wasn't yelling at him the same way. Because I remember now, because he reads the paper and immediately goes out into the hallway screaming, saying, "Who wrote this?" And is saying, "I'm going to expel whoever wrote this." And then he finds out that it's this kid who is like mentally retarded. And he's like, "Oh, okay." And then he decides to calm down and talk to him in a very calm manner. And then after a little while, he basically says, "No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not gonna. It's my opinion. Just because you disagree with it doesn't mean that you're allowed to silence my point of view." And so he then gets another kid who is mentally retarded, and this kid's I forget he's like the bad guy in the show in that season, and he's trying to work this he's trying to work this agenda. I forgot what it was. I haven't seen the episode in a while. And so what happens is the PC principal asks him, how does it make you feel when somebody uses the R word? And he says, "It makes me feel bad." And he's purposely sounding more stupid than he actually is, to get this sort of sympathy, set up to push the agenda, I guess, if you wanted to describe it that way. And then he says, "It makes me feel like my heart is peeing its pants." And I just realized I spent forever talking about that, and that was like the stupidest thing ever, and it didn't really matter at all. So I'm sorry. But it's funnier when you see it. Which is true about basically everything. So yeah, I don't even know if I'll end up publishing this video. I will. You know what? I will. I'm not gonna be afraid. Probably lose like 5 subscribers at the least. But yeah, it doesn't matter, man. You gotta fight for what you believe in. You know. You gotta stand your ground. You can't just if you think something and you have a decent argument for it, don't simply go, "Well, people won't agree with me, so might as well just forget about it." Don't do that, because that's how the world changes for the worse. Is when, and this is a cliche, but cliches are often true, that, that, oh gosh, what's the quote? Evil, what is it? Evil only exists when good men do nothing. Something like that. I can't remember. It would have been so perfect if I could have remembered. But yeah, that's just the truth. Dropping truth bombs. Hoff would hate me for saying that. I hate that word too. Don't ever, ever start off telling somebody by saying, I'm going to drop some truth bombs. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh, that's awful. Awful. Forgive me for saying it, though. So, yeah, good night, because it's night here, and I don't care about whatever you're doing in the morning.